Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Guys at Magic. This is Hunter coming at you with another deck tech. That's right, we are taking a look at another Marvel Secret Lair card. This time, we're taking a look at the Captain himself, if you see that behind me. Captain America. That's right. I'm very excited to talk about this deck, but before we do, I just want to remind everybody to hit that like button if you guys like these deck techs. Subscribe to the channel so you're staying up to date with all of the videos that we're putting out. As always, so, without further ado, let's start talking about Captain America. So, our commander is going to be the Captain himself. It is Captain America, first Avenger. Of course, he is red, white, and blue. For a 4/4 legendary creature human soldier hero, it has Throw. For 3 mana, unattach an equipment from Captain America. He deals damage equal to that equipment's mana value, divided as you choose among 1, 2, or 3 targets. And then it has Catch, which means at the beginning of combat on your turn, attach up to 1 target equipment you control to Captain America. Yes, so in this deck, I am kind of going with the Voltron strategy. We're going to be running a lot of equipment. We're going to be trying to put them all on Captain America. We're going to swing in for massive damage. And then later, we can pay that 3 mana, throw those equipments at our opponent's faces. Just to kind of a real big flavor win here. I absolutely love the fact that you just throw his shield and then he catches it back, and then however I would like him to catch it maybe like after combat. That would make a bit more sense. So at the beginning of combat you have to attach it and then you throw it during combat, which means you don't get the buff during whatever, doesn't matter. But let's go ahead and jump straight into this deck tech. Of course, we are starting with the Secret Lair cards. So if you were lucky enough to get this on November 4th, 2024, we are looking at the entire Secret Lair for Captain America himself, and we're going to throw all of these cards inside that deck. So Flawless Maneuvers here for 2 and a white instant. If you control your commander, you can cast a spell without paying its mana cost. Creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Just a bit of protection. Of course, we have the Shield of War and Peace, which is really just the Sword of War and Peace. It's 3 mana, artifact equipment. Quick creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from red and from white. And then whenever an equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, this equipment deals damage to that player equal to the number of cards in their hand, and you gain 1 life for each card in your hand. Equip cost of 2. Captain America's Aid, which is just Sigarda's Aid. For 1 mana, it's an enchantment that says you may cast aura and equipment spells as though they had flash. And whenever an equipment you control enters, you may attach it to 1 target creature you control. And the final card that is in this Secret Lair is In the Trenches for 1 and 2 white. It's an enchantment as well that says creatures you control just get +1/+1. And it has another ability that you can pay into whenever you want. For 5 and a white, exile target non-land permanent you don't control until this enchantment leaves the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery and only once. So just a little bit of a bump effect plus a little bit of removal on top whenever we feel like using it. So yeah, that is the entire Secret Lair list. I am very excited to build this deck. Let's go ahead and get started. So first up, we are talking creatures here. No planeswalkers in this build. I didn't feel the need to add any planeswalkers this time around. So let's talk about some of the creatures that are mana dorks, a bit of mana cost reduction, that kind of stuff. So of course, we're going to be throwing in Ornithopter of Paradise. We are a 3-color deck, so the bulk of our money is actually going to be in the mana base, because when you're 3 colors, you kind of have to do the best you can with the mana base. I really ramped it up here to make Captain America the best we can. But Ornithopter of Paradise, 2 generic mana for 0/2 artifact creature Thopter. It's got flying. You can tap to add 1 mana of any color. Bureau Headmaster is a red and a white for a 2/2 creature human assassin. It says equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, and equipped abilities you activate cost 1 less to activate. So, like I said, cost reduction there is great. Danitha Capation Paragon is 2 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature human knight. It's got first strike, it's got vigilance, it's got lifelink, and it also says aura and equipment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Codsworth Handy Helper is 2 and a white for a 2/3 legendary artifact creature robot. It says commanders you control have Ward 2, which is great. Give our commander a little bit more protection. You can tap it to add 2 white. Spend this mana only to cast aura and or equipment spells. And as another ability, we can tap it. Attach target aura or equipment you control to target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. Dalakos, Crafter of Wonders, is 1 blue-red for a 2/4 legendary creature Merfolk Artificer. You can tap it to add 2 colorless mana, and spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. And it also says equipped creatures you control have flying and haste. So gives us that ability to go and swing right away. Love that on top of that. Moving on to the creatures that are giving us card draw, because card draw is very important to this. We are trying to get as much card draw as we can and get our equipment out as fast as we can and attach it all to Captain America and just really just deal that damage. So Akiri, Fearless Voyager, 1 red, white for a 3/3 legendary creature core warrior. It says whenever you attack a player with 1 or more equipped creature, draw a card. Then as another ability, you can pay a white. You may unattach an equipment from a creature you control. If you do, tap that creature and it gains indestructible until end of turn. So Akiri not only goes ahead and gives us card draw, but it gives us protection as well. Fantastic include. Esper Sentinel, you guys all know this one. This is a very good one. So 1 white mana for a 1/1 artifact creature human soldier. It says whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Esper Sentinel's power. A lot of the times people aren't even going to pay that 1. However, if we just throw 1 of our equipments onto Esper Sentinel just to give that little bit of a power boost, then our opponents really aren't going to be paying that tax, and we're going to be drawing cards. Joyra, Weatherlight Captain, 2 blue-red for a 3/3 legendary creature human artificer. It says whenever you cast a historic spell, draw a card. As a reminder, artifacts, legendaries, and sagas are historic, so not only are we going to be getting a bunch of legendary creature triggers off of that, but we have a ton of equipment that are just artifacts, and yeah, card draws here. Pure Steel Paladin also coming in for 2 white mana for a 2/2 creature human knight. It says whenever an equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. There's no point to the may. We're always drawing cards. It's also got Metalcraft for equipment you control have equipped as 0 as long as you have 3 or more artifacts. This is a must include. Shram, Senior Edificer, is 1 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature Dwarf Advisor. It says whenever you cast an aura, equipment, or vehicle spell, draw a card. These next creatures help go and get the equipment that we're looking for. So this first one is Godo, Bandit Warlord, for 5 and a red for a 3/3 legendary creature human barbarian. It says when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. And then it says whenever Godo attacks for the first time each turn, untap it, and all samurai you control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So Godo, a very fantastic card to go and get an equipment that we really need, and also the ability to go ahead and do 2 combats, maybe even more. I will talk about the equipment that goes infinite with Godo when we talk about the equipment section, but just know Godo here is a fantastic include, not only for that ability to give 2 combats, that ability to go and get an equipment we need, but the potential to go infinite. So I will talk to you in the equipment section about that. But Stoneforge Mystic, 1 and a white for a 1/2 creature core artificer. It says whenever Stoneforge Mystic enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Has another ability. You can pay 1 and a white, tap it. You may put an equipment card from your hand onto the battlefield. So just skip the whole cost of casting equipment. Pay 2 mana instead. Stone Eater Giant, 3 and 2 white for a 4/4 creature giant warrior. It's got vigilance and it has an ability. You can also pay 1 and a white, tap it, search your library for an equipment card, put it onto the battlefield, attach it to a creature you control, then shuffle your library. That's a really, really good ability. These next 2 creatures help the equipment matters theme. Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist, is 2 and a white for a 2/2 legendary creature core scout. It says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipment you control to target permanent or player. So just take all that equipment and just put it onto Captain America. Halvar, God of Battle. It's a MDFC card, so you can play it on either side for that or Sword of the Realms. But first, Halvar, God of Battle is 2 and 2 white for a 4/4 legendary creature god. It's got creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike. And at the beginning of each combat, you may attach target aura or equipment attached to a creature you control to a target creature you control. So just swap it around. Or you can play it from the backside. Sword of the Realms, 1 and a white for legendary artifact equipment that says equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has vigilance. And whenever equipped creature dies, return it to its owner's hand. Equip cost of 1 and a white. I feel like most of the time you really want to play it on the Halvar side. But if it's late game, then maybe you just need 1 more equipment. Then obviously play Sword of the Realms. And our final 2 creatures that we are throwing into this build are actually equipments themselves. So Lion Sash is 1 and a white for a 1/1 artifact creature equipment cat. You can pay a white, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent card, you put a +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash, and then equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. And then you can just reconfigure for 2 mana, which is just equipped, and just attach to another creature. And then Lizard Blades, 1 and a red for a 1/1 artifact creature equipment lizard. It's got double strike, and it says equipped creature has double strike, and also that reconfigure for 2 mana as well. Moving on to the sorcery department, we are only running 4 sorceries total in this deck, so I'm just going to throw all of them on the screen right now and not kind of separate all of them. So we'll just go through them really quickly. First, we got to have Blasphemous Act because we are in red. So 8 and a red for a sorcery. Spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. Blasphemous Act deals 13 damage to each creature. Fun fact, if we have an equipment on Captain America, specifically the sword, aka the Shield of War and Peace, it gives protection from red and white. So if we Blasphemous Act while the shield is on our commander, it's actually protected, which is pretty cool. Fabricate for 2 and a blue sorcery. Search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Just go and get that equipment that you need. Similarly, Steel Shaper's Gift for 1 white mana sorcery. Search your library for an equipment card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle. And Thoughtcast for 4 and a blue sorcery. Affinity for artifacts, so it does cost 1 less for each artifact you control. Draw 2 cards. Just draw some cards. Moving on to the instant section of our deck, we are starting with some removal. So we got Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares going in here for both 1 white mana. They are both instants. They both say exile target creature. The Path to Exile goes ahead and gives your opponent a basic land, and then the Swords to Plowshare gives them life equal to the power. You all know what these cards are. Chaos Warp for 2 and a red. It's an instant. It says the owner of target permanent shuffles it into their library, then reveals the top card of their library. If it's a permanent card, they put that onto the battlefield. Chaos, baby. And Stroke of Midnight, 2 and a white for an instant. It says destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller makes a 1/1 human creature token. Get rid of anything. Of course, we are throwing in 1 more board wipe. I always try to run 2 board wipes, so this is not necessarily a board wipe, but it helps you the most. Cyclonic Rift, you all know this one. 1 and a blue instant. Return target non-land permanent you don't control to its owner's hand, and an overload cost for 6 and a blue. Replace target to each, and then you just bounce all your opponent's stuff. Just gone. Of course, we are in blue. And when we are in blue, that means we can throw in some counter spells. So let's do that too. Counter spell, 2 blue mana. Counter target spell. Yep. Dovin's Veto. White and a blue. Instant. This spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. And our final 2 instants we are throwing in this deck care about those equipments. First up is a Battlefield Improvisation for 1 and a white for an instant. It says target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. If that creature is attacking, you may attach any number of equipment you control to it. So if we activated our commander's ability where we're just throwing equipment around, we cast this, and then we just attach them all back on combat, swing in, just hit them for even more damage. Kind of the same here is Inventory Management. I love this card so much. For a red and a white, it says got Split Second, which means it's the only card that can be on the stack. For each aura and equipment you control, you can attach it to a creature you control. So just very quickly, if someone was dying, you just move all the equipment over to something else. Just quickly just deal damage with something else if it was being targeted by spot removal or something like that. Here comes the bulk of our deck. That's right, it's the artifact department. First and foremost, you saw we only added really 1 mana dork with Ornithopter of Paradise, so we are throwing in the bulk of our mana production into the artifacts. So let's get into the rocks. Soul Ring looks familiar from the Iron Man Secret Lair, if you were able to get that one for 1 mana. Tap it for 2 colorless. Earth's Mightiest Emblem, which is just Arcane Signet. If you were lucky enough to spend $200 on the Secret Lair, you got this version. 2 mana. Tap it, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Felwar Stone is a good card here since we are 3 colors. 2 mana artifact. Tap it to add 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent could produce. Hopefully they're running one of the 3 out of 5 colors that you're running. We're throwing in all the talismans of our colors. So Talisman of Conviction, Talisman of Creativity, Talisman of Progress. They all tap for colorless and they all tap for the respective colors. So Conviction is a red and white, and if like I said, if you tap them for the colors, they all do 1 damage to you. Creativity taps for a blue or red, and Progress taps for a white or blue. And of course, we're going to be drawing a lot of cards. You saw the amount of card draw that we have in the deck, so Thought Vessel is a good card here. 2 mana, you have no maximum hand size, it can tap for a colorless. All right, let's get into the equipment. This is what we're talking about. We're trying to do as much damage as possible. This is Voltron. Get everything on top of Captain America and just swing. Commander's Plate from the Iron Man Secret Lair. Cool art. I love it here. 1 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature has +3/+3 and has protection from each color that's not in your commander's color identity. Equipped commander for 3 or equipped cost of 5. Excalibur, Sword of Eden for 12 mana. Legendary artifact equipment, but this spell does cost X less to cast, where X is the total mana value among historic permanents you control. Equipped creature gets +10/+0 and has vigilance. Equipped legendary creature for 2 mana. So fun fact, this will be very cheap if we have a bunch of stuff on the battlefield already, and then we can throw this at something. Throw this at your opponent's face. That's 12 damage coming from this. I love that. Colossus Hammer, 1 mana for an artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +10/+10 and loses flying. Equip cost of 8. The amount of ways we can just cheat this onto Captain America for free, just to give it +10/+10, is really good. Embercleave, 4 and 2 red for legendary artifact equipment. It has flash. It says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature you control. And whenever Embercleave enters the battlefield attached to target creature you control, equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has double strike and trample. Equip cost of 3. 6 mana for Embercleave, so throw 6 damage at something or multiple things. Grafted Exoskeleton is an alternate win con here. 4 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has infect, and whenever this becomes unattached to a permanent, sacrifice that permanent. Equip cost of 2. So yes, Voltron style gets really big very quickly. If we swing in with a Grafted Exoskeleton on Captain America, which I think is just hilarious, giving Captain America infect, we're going to be killing our opponents pretty quickly. Hammer of Nazan, 4 mana legendary artifact equipment. It says whenever it or another equipment enters the battlefield under your control, you may attach that equipment to target creature you control. Equipped creature has +2/+0 and has indestructible. Equip cost of 4. Love the ability where you can just cheat in just equip costs. Just more of those effects, please. Thran Power Suit for 2 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it and has ward 2. Equip cost of 2. The Reaver Cleaver, 2 and a red legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has trample, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, create that many treasure tokens. Always can use the extra mana. Equipped cost of 3. Mjolnir, Stormhammer. What a flavor win here, right? Because Captain America can hold Mjolnir. I love it. 4 mana, legendary artifact equipment. It says when it enters the battlefield, attach it to target legendary creature you control. And whenever equipped creature attacks, tap target creature defending player controls and put a stun counter on it. Then Mjolnir deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of tapped creature that opponent controls. Equip cost of 4. Lightning Greaves, 2 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature has haste and shroud. Equip cost of 0. Be careful with this. Put this on later. Switch it over to another kind of creature and then switch it back to your creature, because once it has shroud, you can't target your creature by putting other stuff on top of it. So keep that in mind. Swiftfoot Boots, 2 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste. Equip cost of 1. Whisper Silk Cloak for 3 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature can't be blocked and has shroud. Equip cost of 2. We're throwing in the Sword of Feast and Famine, 3 mana artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 and has protection from black and from green. Whenever equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card and you untap all lands you control. Equip cost of 2. That's mainly the reason I'm throwing this in here, because I love the fact that you could go ahead and get all your lands back to being untapped. That's important. Mithril Coat for 3 mana, legendary artifact equipment. Flash, indestructible. And when it enters the battlefield, attach it to target legendary creature you control. Equipped creature has indestructible. Equip cost of 3. And Helm of the Host. That is right. For 4 mana, legendary artifact equipment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create a token that's a copy of equipped creature, except the token isn't legendary if the equipped creature is legendary. That token gains haste. Equipped cost of 5. So, this is the card I'm telling you that goes infinite with Godo. Because if you attach this to Godo, it makes a copy of Godo. Godo swings in, untaps all the samurai. Has an additional combat step. When you see the pattern there, every time we swing, we start a new combat, we make a new Godo, we swing, we start a new combat, we make another Godo, swing, it goes infinite. Yeah, your opponent's gonna die, and I love that. Hexplate Wallbreaker for 3 and 2 red artifact equipment for Mirrodin, which means when this enters, you make a 2/2 rebel creature token and attach this to it. Equipped creature is +2/+2, and whenever equipped creature attacks, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap each attacking creature. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase, equip cost of 3 and a red. So, once again, another way just to get more combats. And Cauldron Complete, 7 mana for legendary artifact equipment. It's living weapon. So this enters, you attach it to a 0/0. Indestructible, equipped creature gets +5/+5 and has first strike, trample, indestructible, haste, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile that creature. Equip cost of 7. So we're going to be getting around those 7 costs. It's going to be free. And then we can throw this at something with Captain America and deal 7 damage. It's a good include. Moving on to the enchantment department. These first 2 enchantments care about equipment. So fighter class, red and a white for an enchantment class. It says when it enters the battlefield, search your library for an equipment card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. Level it up to level 2 for 1, a red and a white. Equipped abilities you activate cost 2 less to activate. And level 3 for 3 red, white. Whenever a creature you control attacks, up to 1 target creature blocks this combat if able. Forge anew, 2 and a white for an enchantment that says when it enters the battlefield, return target equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And as long as it's your turn, you may activate equipped abilities anytime you could cast an instant, and you may pay 0 rather than pay the equipped cost of the first equipped ability you activate during each of your turns. Yeah, Forge anew is fantastic. If someone was to actually destroy one of our favorite equipments, this goes ahead and brings it back. And then just, like I said, those 0 cost equipped things are fantastic. Take them, just take as many as you can. Moving on to the final 3 enchantments of the deck. I'm just throwing them all up on the screen. They're just utility. They help the deck move along a little bit better. Rhystic Study, 2 and a blue enchantment. It says whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may draw a card unless that player pays the 1. Do you pay the 1? Probably not. Draw cards. Training Grounds is really good in this deck for 1 blue mana. Enchantment. Activated abilities of creatures you control cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. So, to throw something when this is on the field only costs 1 mana. Just keep paying that 1 mana just to throw your shield at everybody's face. Fiery Emancipation. Similarly to what we want to do about throwing. 3 and 3 red for an enchantment. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. So, once again, every time we're throwing stuff at something, we're dealing triple the amount of damage it's doing to that thing. I love it. And finally, let's go ahead and move into the land department. Like I said, this is probably the most amount of money that's in the deck is just in the land department. We're just trying to make this deck run smooth as possible. And to do that, we need to make fast mana. So lands. Here's the utility ones first. Academy Ruins, legendary land. You can tap for a colorless, or you can pay 1 and a blue, tap it, put target artifact from your graveyard on top of your library. Just go ahead and get that stuff back that might have got killed. Archway of Innovation, land, enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island. You can tap it for a blue, or you can pay a blue, tap it. The next spell you cast this turn has Improvise, which means artifacts can help you cast this spell. For each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities, pays for 1 mana. Axguard Armory. It's a land that enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it to add a white, or you could pay 1, 2 red, and a white, tap it, sacrifice it, search the library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it, put it in your hand, shuffle your library. Buried Ruin, another land you can tap for a colorless. You can also pay 2, tap it, sacrifice Buried Ruin, and return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. Inventor's Fair from the Iron Man Secret Lair. Very cool artwork here. It's a legendary land that says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 3 or more artifacts, you gain 1 life. You can also tap it for a colorless. You can also pay 4. Tap it, sacrifice Inventor's Fair to search your library for an artifact card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. Activate only if you control 3 or more artifacts. Rogue's Passage. You all know this one. Tap it for colorless. Pay 4. Tap it. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. And Reliquary Tower. Once again, we're going to be drawing a lot of cards. We want to increase the ability to not get that discard effect. You have no maximum hand size. Tap it for a colorless. Moving on to the lands that produce some colors for us. Command Tower. Tap it. Add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Exotic Orchard. Tap it. Add 1 mana of any color of a land an opponent could produce. Ragran Triome is the land, island, mountain, plains. Enters the battlefield tapped. Always has a cycling cost if you didn't need it in late game for 3 mana, but it can tap for a blue, red, or white. Of course, we are 3 colors, so we are throwing in all of our fetches. So, Arid Mesa, Flooded Strand, Scalding Tarn. You can all tap each one. You can all pay 1 life on top of that, and then search for their respective colors. So, Arid Mesa, you could tap it, sack it, search it for a mountain or plains. Flooded Strand, plains or island. Scalding Tarn, island or mountain. Fabled Passage also going in here as well, just 1 extra little fetch here. Tap it, sacrifice Fabled Passage, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Then if you control 4 or more lands, untap that land. We're also throwing in all of the shocks in our colors. So Hallowed Fountain, Sacred Foundry, Steam Vents, all enter the battlefield tapped unless you pay 2 life. They're all their kind of basic land types. So Hallowed Fountain is a plains island, Sacred Foundry is a mountain plains, and Steam Vents is an island mountain. So if we were using our fetches, we can go and get these as well as the Triome you saw. We're throwing in the check lands of our colors of Clifftop Retreat, Glacial Fortress, and Sulphur Falls. They enter the battlefield tapped unless you control their respective check. Essentially, Clifftop Retreat, you need a mountain or plains for it to come untapped. Glacial Fortress, you need a plains or island. And Sulphur Falls, you need an island or mountain. And they tap for their respective colors as well. The next cycle of lands we're throwing in here are the slow lands, I believe they're called. Deserted Beach, Stormcarved Coast, and Sundown Pass. They all enter the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more other lands. And they tap for the respective colors. So Deserted Beach is white-blue, Stormcarved Coast, blue-red, and Sundown Pass, red-white. Once again, we are throwing in another cycle of colors that we need, and this is the bond lands in our colors, aka the EDH lands, the most important lands in my opinion if you're playing EDH. Sea of Clouds, Spectator Seating, and Training Center all enter the battlefield tapped unless you have 2 or more opponents. We are playing EDH most of the time unless it's very late game and multiple people have died and it's a one-on-one, they're coming in tapped and you're bummed, but these are probably coming in untapped. Sea of Cloud, tap for a white or blue, Spectator Seating, red or white, and Training Center is a blue or red. And finally, last but certainly not least, we are adding in some basic lands as well. 3 islands, 3 mountains, 4 plains. And that is going to do it. That is Captain America First Avenger. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I had fun building it. I think he's a very powerful Voltron commander, especially late game after you deal in damage. If you have a bunch of equipment attached to this, you can just pay that extra mana to unattach just to finish off your opponent and just start beating them with all the equipment that was attached to Captain America. I think that's a hilarious thing to do. It's like, oh, you just took how much damage? You're at 10 life. Let me just slowly take off these equipments and kill you with it. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this deck. Do you think I missed something? Maybe you would have added something that I completely forgot. I'm always interested to hear your guys' opinions in the comment section down below. Or maybe you thought something that I added that you didn't really like. I'm interested to hear that as well. Hit the like button if you guys like this video to let us know that we got to keep making these videos. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already so you're staying up to date. If you guys wanted to see this full deck list, check the link in the description below for the Moxfield link. It's right there. Play test it. Play with it yourself. In the description as well, you'll find links to all of our social media accounts. That's TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, @GuysThatMagic for each one. Follow us on those. Stay up to date with everything else that we got going on. And on the screen right now, those are all of our Patreon subscribers. Thank you guys so much for your added support. It really does mean the world to us. If you guys wanted to check out what they're seeing, which is not here on YouTube, check the link in the description as well and consider subscribing. And until the next video, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Peace.